Hi, welcome to the course Modeling of Digital Service. In this presentation, we'll be looking at the introduction to Agile ways of working. As this course requires teams to employ Agile ways of working in their project, we'll be going through why Agile and then how to put it in practice in your team as well. So let's quickly look at the contents of this presentation. We'll be looking at what is Agile, why Agile, Scrum as an Agile methodology. Of course, there are other methods like Kanban. Then we will look at some of the Scrum events. Again, we already talked about writing your requirement as a functional requirement in a story, in a kind of story level. And we'll be looking at how to estimate that one as well. And then we'll look at the definition of ready. When do you say that this story is ready to be implemented? And then the definition of done, that when do you put a stamp that this story is actually ready to be accepted. And then finally, we will look at how to set up your team board in Jira. So Jira is one of the tools that can help you to implement Agile or put Agile in practice. And so we'll be looking at that. So what is Agile? So Agile is an iterative approach to project management and software development that helps teams deliver value to their customers faster and with fewer headaches. Let's take it for example. Agile is now the way that most companies are adapting how they approach or how they've been working with customers. So since I've been in working in manufacturing side, let's take Kone for example. We deliver elevators and escalators, and if we are going to go straightly with contracts, that's let's say a customer order an elevator last year 2019 or 2020, and then we have to deliver this in maybe 2022, and then this year regulations in the elevator changes. For example, previously if you enter any elevator, you realize that you have when there's an emergency, there's an emergency bell that you can call, but then nobody sees what is happening in the elevator. Now the new EU regulation shows that now it needs to have video capability. So if all elevators that are coming in 2022 is supposed to have that, and we've signed a contract already in 2020 when that regulation was not in place, and there's no room for the customer to now make changes because it's straightly done that way, then we will be able to deliver in 2022, but the elevator will be of no use to the customer. So instead of waiting like just after the contract, okay, we've signed, you cannot change anything, we do everything and then boom, that will not be helpful to the customer. So Agile ways of working helps teams to do on an incremental basis, that you do a little bit of the project, you then have a look with the customer for feedback, and then you improve upon that one. And the Facebook we use today, according to some stories, were done in 2 weeks as the minimum viable product, the small part that could be used. Others say a month. Whatever the case, even if it's a month, you could see that the Facebook you use today is way far from what was done at the beginning. And what we have today mostly has been built based on customer preference and customer comment or feedback. So the Agile ways of working makes teams much more flexible and allows us to be able to respond to the changes in the customer's needs as and when needed. So let's take this when we say that Agile. So Agile is a mindset, having that mindset that, okay, we want to be more flexible, we want to be able to respond to customer needs. So basically Agile is a mindset described by 4 values. That is, we prefer individual and interaction over process and tools. So we want to see that the teams are interacting and sort of having more visibility to what they are doing and sharing ideas. We also want to see a working software over comprehensive documentation. What will be the use of documenting everything we've done and giving it to you at the end of the day, but the software, whatever we have, is of no use to you because you have not had any input, and at the time we are delivering, there is a lot has changed. So customer collaboration. So we want to do whatever we are doing with the customer input as well, and responding to change, as I gave an example. So we want to see that we are able to be flexible and make changes that will be meaningful to the customer than following a plan that, okay, this is what we planned 2020, so we cannot change it. So and then it's also defined by 12 principles. So customer satisfaction, at the end of the day, we want to ensure that customer is satisfied. At the end of the day, we want to be able to welcome change at any point of the project. At the end of the day, we want to be able to deliver frequently. So if I take Facebook, for example, all the features that you see today were not delivered one time. So as and when is needed, because of the feedback that they are collecting, they are able to deliver to us. Work together, motivated team, face-to-face, working software, constant pace. So simplicity, there's a lot of this. And then to be able to, so this is being, I would say this area will be the main mindset. And these are manifested through unlimited practices. So, and one of them I mentioned earlier was the Scrum. We have Kanban and a whole lot. So for this course, we'll be considering the Scrum, for example. And then, of course, there are a lot of other tools and practices that you could use to ensure that you are being agile. And then, of course, doing agile as well. So if we look at it this way, so we have here, I would say the whole of this is being agile. That is having the mindset of what it means to be agile, flexible, being able to have your team kind of putting priority on individuals and interaction over other stuff. So, and then on the practice, so as already mentioned, we have a lot of them, but for this course we'll be looking at Jira, for example. You could also use Slack with this. You can use Teams or Confluence for doing agile or putting agile into practice. Now, why agile? So agile is more of being customer centric. As already mentioned, we want to ensure that whatever we are doing, we are doing it to satisfy the customer. We are doing it to satisfy the needs of the customer. So agility has proven to be one of the best ways to respond to the customer. And we all know there is a lot of changes in the customer needs these days. So if customer wants software that will take 1 year, 1 year is huge, and by the time you are done, you realize that there has been a lot of changes that needs to be come in or be updated. So if we are to stick to contract that this is what you initially wanted, we cannot change anything. We will finish and deliver to the customer, but it will be of no use to the customer. So in short, if you have a strong process or ways of working, your team will be happy, and the output will be that there will be increase in speed in the way of they are working, and of course reduce risks. There will be high quality of whatever they are doing, and you are able to also predict the delivery, because now we'll be looking at, we are able to estimate our work. We know when we can do this and we know when we can deliver that. But then on the other hand of the scale, if we have a weak ways of working, we will not be able to estimate our work. It will be difficult to predict the delivery date. We'll have a delay. So unsustainable pace of work, of course, unstable team. People will be leaving and coming all the time. Of silos, individuals or people will be working on their cubicle, like no communication. They're competing priorities, so you don't know which ones you should deliver at any point. And of course, the quality, the output of whatever the team is delivering will be low, and so on. So Scrum is one of the methodologies of Agile, and it's basically has three main pillars. Transparency, that is, every member of your team knows what is going on. So it's important, because when you're doing project, one area might affect the other. So it's kind of a big deal to have complete transparency or visibility for the team. It is okay to change based on inspection. So you also inspect as you go. So based on your finding, you can change, and then of course adapt. Check your work while working on it. So if you have a task or a story, you evaluate it yourself, and then you sort of if there's need to be changes, you can then go on with it. So these are the three major I would say pillars of Scrum. But then the framework of Scrum is based on two definitions, which is definition of ready, definition of done. So if you have stories to be done, like as a lecturer, I want to log into the school e-learning system so that I can add grades to students, or maybe manage my course or upload course content, then that's the story. Now, somebody is going to do this design. What are the details? Okay, as a prospective student, I want to be able to browse through the programs of the school and select my favorite and probably apply. So here, with this story, what do we need to say that it is ready for you to start designing the page for that? And then we have definition of done, that kind of what needs to be done to say that this is done. Like you have acceptance criteria that, okay, I'm able to see that I can browse through degree for bachelor's degree, master's degrees, and others, so based on these we can say that, okay, the story is done. And then for a Scrum team, we do have three major roles. So the product owner, the Scrum master, and then the developers or the team members in this case. And of course, you have the artifact like the backlog. The backlog represents all the stories that you want to do, but you've not started yet. The sprint backlog are the items that you have planned that you're doing. And then here, of course, incremental, that you do it in, you cannot do, the sprint allows you to do little by little. So, and then we have the event. So the event is where you have the sprint. Sprint is a time box. You can start say that every 2 weeks or every week or every month, this is the amount of work we want to do. But before the sprint start, you need to do sprint planning. So the planning is where you pick items from the product backlog into the sprint backlog. What you want to do within the sprint time box, like a week or two. Now, once the sprint is ongoing, you need to have daily Scrum. And the daily Scrum is mainly to find out if there are impediments, what your team members are working on, and what they have worked on, and if there is anything so basically it's yesterday, today, and is there any problem? What I did yesterday, what I will do today, and then is there any impediment that I need help with? And then of course, after this, at the end of the sprint, you do a review to see, is there something that why we planned for this work, why we were not able to complete, or something like that. And then there's sprint retro. This is something you can do on a monthly basis or weekly or right after the sprint, of course. So here the product owner is actually responsible for making sure that the backlog is always have enough stories and well defined and ready for the sprint planning. Scrum Master supposed to be running these events in a meeting, leading and making sure that everybody, or facilitating basically. Now let's put this in short. So in Scrum you have this phase where you are getting ready to sprint, and then you have the sprinting. Now when you are getting ready, it means that you've now put all your stories to the backlog, and then you have a ceremony called backlog grooming or refinement, and this is where your team, the whole team, meets and then work towards the definition of done and definition of ready, so that the story will be ready for other members to work on. So once the stories are ready, you will do sprint planning. Once you are doing sprint planning, you pull story from here to your sprint backlog, and then you assign to your team members, and then you time box it that, okay, we are doing 2 weeks sprint, and then people will start taking this and working on them. And during that time, every day you have, of course, it's called daily Scrum, but it could be, depending on the team, they could decide to have it once in a week, twice in a week, or even once in every 2 weeks, depending on the team. And then the main, as I said earlier, the main purpose of this is to ensure that team members having difficulty not to maybe meet the sprint goal will be helped in a way. And then at the end of the sprint, you have the sprint review and then sprint retro. What went well, what didn't went well, or what could be improved, something like that. Good. And then, so now in most cases, when you start a project in a Scrum, with the Scrum methodology, you have these meetings that you hold, or ceremonies. So backlog refinement, and here the purpose of it is written here, that to keep top of the backlog in shape for a few sprints ahead and share knowledge. So the agenda for this is to make sure that you put the backlog in priority order for the upcoming sprint. Team works on each story towards definition of ready. Review stories and acceptance criteria. We will be looking at this also as we go on. Stories slice. So if you have a bigger story, you can then slice it into small. You estimate the stories and take it back to ready status, depending on how your board has been configured. And of course, those who participate are the team, Scrum Master and the product owner. Then the sprint planning. So the sprint planning, the main focus is to pull stories into the new sprint based on priority and capacity and assign to each team member. And then of course, align on order of stories, decide on priority, what needs to be done first. Decide on sprint goal with each team and decide on items that will be demoed at the end of sprint review. So during sprint review, team members can also demo what they have done for the product owner to accept. So awesome in that case. But here we have key questions like these, but the main point here is common pitfall. Stories, if the stories are not well refined, not specified well, then during this side you'll be wasting time. Capacity not clear, so you don't know how your team members are going. Okay, in terms of, is somebody on holiday, so everybody working full-time, those kind of things, then you need to take into consideration. And of course, distinguishing this from other meetings. So you need to make sure that you're focusing on this and not just do it the same way other meetings are run. And of course, here at the end of the whole meeting, you can have a confident vote so the teams will decide, okay, are they confident that they'll be able to complete the amount of work put in. And then the sprint review. So the sprint review, at the end of the sprint, the team reviewed the sprint content, what was planned and what was delivered. Developers or team members demo completed sprint stories for PO's acceptance, close or done stories approved, and PO or team decide what to do with the leftovers, called spilled over. So they'll be completely normally moved to the next sprint automatically if you want. And then daily Scrum already mentioned. So here every team member in that meeting needs to speak, and mostly they will talk about what they did yesterday, what they will intend to do today, and if they have any impediment for other members to help. And then of course the sprint retro. So what went well, what needs improvement, next steps or actions to improve that. And here you have so many tools to do that. I have put here a couple of them. So easy retro is really good for that, or mirror. You could use any of these to run that meeting. Then this is actually story points. I will change this to be the title, supposed to be story points estimate. So when you write stories, you need to be able to estimate them. Some teams estimate this in hours, but the Fibonacci format sequence has proven to be much more effective, and so that is what most teams use. And it's kind of a sequence that starts with 0, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So you add the first two numbers, you get a third number. So this plus that gives you this. So we don't want to be much more accurate, but then this is also what is giving you. So if the work is something that takes more than half a day, you can assume it's 1 day. So this is more of assuming that any work that you do in a whole day is 1 story point. If it's something you do in 2 days, that is a 2 story point. If it's something you do in 3 days, that is a 3 story point. If it's something you do in 5 days, that is 5 story point, and so forth. So that's how to estimate. But when you are estimating, you need to take into consideration risk, uncertainty, and complexity. Example: if I'm to drive from my house to Laria campus, it takes me, let's say, 10 minutes. And then I need to have a customer want to meet me there. So if it's the time the customer will call me is, let's say, 10:50, I cannot say that, oh, it always take me 10 minutes, so I'll be there in 10 minutes. That will not. I have to get down from my house to the car, drive, go there and park. But then on the way, there might be traffic, there might be accident that I have to wait, there must be police checkpoints, there could be, when I get there, I have to look for parking and then get down. So I'll put all these into consideration before I give the estimate. Then the definition of done or ready, this needs to be created by the whole team. So mostly when we are saying that a story is ready, it means that the user story has been defined, the business value, okay, priority, maybe 1 or 2 or high, medium. Okay, the specification is clear, acceptance criteria, so what needs to be tested. This is mostly for the testers. And then it has been estimated. Is there any dependency or depending on the team? So this is an example, but the team needs to define whatever based on what fits their team. And here the definition of done could be that acceptance criteria has been met, functional test pass, PO accepts, the PO is the product owner, accept the story, non-functional requirements like security and other things has been taken into consideration. And again, depending on the team, do you need the application to be responsive or anything? So mostly, of course, this could also be covered in the acceptance criteria, so then you don't have to even write it separately. But this is just an example. So then how to set up your Teams board in Jira. Here I have created a cool two sort of videos on how to create your account, free account for up to 10 people, and of course how to configure the board. You can take a look, and in the next I'll have a separate video on how to now put your stories there and specify it, and then explain in more details some of the fields in Jira. But I hope this will be helpful once your team will start to work in Agile ways. This way you'll be able to say that, okay, within the next 2 months or 2 weeks, we want to be able to do this. So we don't want to wait that at the end of the course, then you come with your project. We want to be able to see where you are at every stage and support you, and then you can come up with a better product or solution at the end of the course. Once again, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.